15th year, and this is Zubin Mehta's last season as music director of the New York Philharmonic. Welcome to a very special 2 hours.
Zubin Mehta, Daniel Barenboim, and the New York Philharmonic. Live from Lincoln Center.
The following program is broadcast in KCET stereo and simulcast in stereo on KUSC and KCPB.
Live from Lincoln Center is underwritten by General Motors and its Chevrolet, Pontiac, Oldsmobile, Buick, Cadillac, GMC Truck Divisions, and GMAC. General Motors, committed to excellence. Live from Lincoln Center is also made possible by a grant from the Robert Wood Johnson Jr. Charitable Trust and with public funds from the National Endowment for the Arts.
Live from Lincoln Center, another in the series of live broadcasts from the stages of Lincoln Center for the Performing Arts in New York City. This is Martin Buxpan. This evening, the New York Philharmonic plays a special pension fund benefit concert conducted by music director Zubin Mehta and featuring Daniel Barenboim as soloist in 2 great piano concertos. This concert is being broadcast live from Avery Fisher Hall. And now, backstage, here is our host, Hugh Downs.
Good evening. Tonight, 2 very good friends and 1 great orchestra get together to make music, and we're all invited. Major conductors and their featured soloists can be expected to bring great skill to their tasks. So it's fair to say that memorable performances are a function of a special rapport among orchestra, conductor, and soloist. And for this reason, tonight promises to be a truly extraordinary evening of music making. In a few minutes, Zubin Mehta will begin a concert featuring an internationally renowned fellow conductor, an equally acclaimed soloist, and one of Mr. Mehta's closest friends. All of them are Daniel Barenboim, the next conductor of the Chicago Symphony, and the pianist who tonight plays Beethoven's Concerto No. 3 and Tchaikovsky's First Piano Concerto, both much-loved monuments of the piano repertory. This concert seems tailor-made for this showcase week on public television. The prodigiously gifted Daniel Barenboim appearing with the New York Philharmonic, led by Zubin Mehta, the conductor who probably knows orchestra and soloist as well as anyone alive. This is one to look forward to. We'll see you at intermission.
In just a few moments, our concert will begin as Zubin Mehta conducts the New York Philharmonic in the Overture to the opera Oberon by Carl Maria von Weber. The Overture to the opera Oberon by Carl Maria von Weber, played by the New York Philharmonic, conducted by Zubin Mehta, live from Lincoln Center, here from the stage of Avery Fisher Hall in New York City's Lincoln Center for the Performing Arts. Mr. Mehta, returning, asks the musicians of the New York Philharmonic to rise. And during the course of the performance of the Oberon Overture, our camera is focused on various principal players of the New York Philharmonic. Principal trumpet Philip Smith, principal horn Philip Myers, principal clarinet Stanley Drucker, principal double bass player Eugene Levinson, the concertmaster Glenn Dicterow, the principal cellist Lorne Monroe, and the hands of the timpanist of the New York Philharmonic, Roland Koloff, as during the course of the Oberon Overture, there were several times when timpani rolls punctuated the music. The next music we'll hear, the Third Piano Concerto by Beethoven, concerto in C minor. And over the years, the key of C minor has been that chosen by composers who were particularly involved in music that has a quality of nobility and grandeur. I'm thinking of works such as the C minor Mass of Mozart, Beethoven's Fifth Symphony, the First Symphony of Brahms, the Second Piano Concerto of Rachmaninoff. Beethoven's C minor concerto was one of the works played on an extraordinary concert that took place in Vienna in April of 1803. It included not only the First and Second Symphonies of Beethoven and the oratorio Christ on the Mount of Olives, but also this Third Piano Concerto with Beethoven himself as the soloist. If the first two of Beethoven's piano concertos may be said to be a farewell to the 18th century, the Third Concerto may well be an opening for the 19th century, the century of Romanticism, because there is in this Third Concerto much that we today would consider belonging to the Romantic era in musical composition. It's a bold, vigorous, marvelously virile concerto, and its performance is always regarded as one of the highlights of any concert. To perform the Third Piano Concerto of Beethoven, we have one of its most distinguished exponents, the pianist, the conductor, Daniel Barenboim. Mr. Barenboim has been a Beethoven specialist from his very early teen years. And in his very early teen years, he recorded several of the Beethoven piano sonatas, along with some of the piano concerti. And of course, in his maturity now, he has gained very special acclaim and renown as a Beethoven piano interpreter. Here is Daniel Barenboim with Zubin Mehta for the Piano Concerto No. 3 in C minor by Beethoven, with Zubin Mehta conducting the New York Philharmonic. Piano Concerto No. 3 in C minor by Beethoven. Live from Lincoln Center with Daniel Barenboim as soloist and Zubin Mehta conducting the New York Philharmonic. During the course of the performance, we had camera close-ups of three more principal players in the orchestra. Jean Baxtresser, the principal flute, Judith LeClaire, the principal bassoon, and Joseph Robinson, the principal oboe. Zubin Mehta and Daniel Barenboim go back together to the time when Daniel Barenboim was not yet even in his teens, and Zubin Mehta was a very young man in his teens, both of them studying conducting in Europe, members of the same conducting class. Daniel Barenboim. Making his first appearance as a piano soloist with the New York Philharmonic in 6 years. And a most welcome appearance it is indeed. The third Beethoven Concerto is the first of two that he will perform on our program today. After the intermission will come the Tchaikovsky Concerto, the composer's first concerto in B-flat minor. Daniel Barenboim has also appeared in the past as a conductor with the New York Philharmonic, and in fact recorded the Tchaikovsky Fourth Symphony with this orchestra. And now it's intermission time as our musicians prepare to leave the stage and the members of the audience leave their seats for an intermission here at Avery Fisher Hall in New York City's Lincoln Center for the Performing Arts. The Beethoven C minor concerto figured on an early Live from Lincoln Center telecast when Claudio Arrau was the pianist. And where the Tchaikovsky B-flat minor concerto is concerned, a performance of it was given during the course of this series by Emil Gilels, the late Emil Gilels, with Zubin Mehta conducting. And now, let's go backstage to our host, Hugh Downs.
Now, all you have to do is one more whole piano concerto before the program's over. I have to ask you, the Tchaikovsky, which you're going to do, that first piano concerto, is such an ocean liner that one tends to associate it in one's mind more with the major competitions than with the seasoned performers in concert halls. Why did you and Zubin choose that one to end this program?
But the Tchaikovsky Concerto, in spite of being so well known, still remains a great masterpiece. And probably slightly maligned by this reputation that has acquired through piano competitions. You know, it is really a very, very important concerto in the repertoire. I still think it's one of Tchaikovsky's great pieces, together with Onegin and some of the symphonies, and remains really a great masterpiece.
Do you think it might have been hurt also, at least its reputation might have been hurt by the selection from it of themes for popular songs? Like
Also, although other pieces like the G minor symphony of Mozart have suffered the same fate and yet remain.
It remained. Yeah, if it's great, it's great.
Yeah. I think the most important thing is when you take a piece like the Tchaikovsky Concerto that is so well known that everybody knows or thinks he knows, to really look again in the score and really look fresh what is there. It is amazing how many things creep up through years and years of mechanical routine-like repetition, and it is, at least for me, one of the great pleasures of being a musician, to be able to take something that one knows so well and look at it so freshly.
And look at it freshly.
Yeah.
I was going to ask, in the Beethoven, even a non-musician can understand how there might be new things, new surprises in each hearing or playing of something like the Beethoven Third. Is that true of the Tchaikovsky also?
Oh yes, it's true of any piece of music. It's true of the simplest and the most complex piece of music, because the combination of the notes, of the music, of the sounds are so made in such a way from nature that it is impossible to see all the relations between the notes at any given time, or even in 1,000 or 1,000,000 times. And if we grow old enough to play the Tchaikovsky Concerto 1,000,000 times, there will still be some relationship that we might find for the first time. And that's really what makes our life so good.
And that's why the music endures, I suppose. On your careers, I have to ask you that, you know, many conductors have been dedicated instrumentalists, and they made a transition into conducting. You never made that transition because you never abandoned the piano. You do these both at the same time. Now, does one dominate? Do you consider yourself a conductor who plays the piano, or a pianist who conducts?
No, both. I think there are two different aspects of the same way of life, which is music, and I enjoy both. But it is for me terribly important. I hope I never have to make this transition to give the piano. I have no intention of doing that. And you know, one of the things that gives me the greatest joy at the moment is to have been named music director of the Chicago Symphony, which I start next year. And I wouldn't dream of standing in front of those wonderful musicians and not be able to play an instrument myself. I feel it's almost a point of honor to try and do that. And I think it's also important for a conductor, you know, who has maintained the contact with an instrument, to keep playing.
When you perform, And it's known that you are a conductor also when you play the piano. And I'm not talking about Zubin Mehta because I know how well you guys know each other. But is that sometimes intimidating to a conductor who knows that you are a conductor?
I don't know. I don't think so. I don't really think so. You know,
that's the right question for me to come.
No, you know, in the end, if the soloist or the conductor are very convincing in what they do, I found myself very often conducting this concerto, this Beethoven C minor, with pianists who had really, in many ways, a very different view of it. But it was so convincing that at the moment of doing it in the evening, I almost forgot that I played and how I played. I was so
so you do
immersed.
accompany him then, in that case, as you, I suppose, in a sense, are accompanying him when he plays the...
I only accompany him.
Well, I know
No,
you got...
he's talking about Rubinstein or Brendel or
sure.
whoever he's accompanying.
In any case, I want to say, since before I go, and if you will excuse me, I think I should go, that it is a little bit a sentimental occasion for me today for many reasons. First of all, I've had a very long association with this orchestra. I remember the first time I played with the New York Philharmonic was in fact with members of the New York Philharmonic with Metropolis in the 50s.
Oh,
and I played then with every music director that has been in New York, with Bernstein, with Boulez, and with Zubin. And so it is a very sentimental occasion for me to do this, especially since my good friend and colleague, it's really the last time that we will do this in New York with him as music director here. So I'm a little bit silly sentimental about the occasion.
I can understand.
And we have played this, probably of all the pieces that we have played together over the last 30 years, this is the one we have played the most together. Might not have sounded like it, but anyway.
This is really great. We'll let you go. Sit tight for a second. I'm going to continue talking. We're going to talk about you when you're going.
He has gone.
Is that right? And we'll be back in just a moment with Zubin Mehta. Thank you. Excellent. Excellent.
We're at the midpoint in the intermission of this New York Philharmonic concert, coming to you live from Avery Fisher Hall at Lincoln Center for the Performing Arts in New York City. We'll be back to join Hugh Downs with Zubin Mehta right after this short pause.
Live from Lincoln Center is underwritten by General Motors and its Chevrolet, Pontiac, Oldsmobile, Buick, Cadillac, GMC truck divisions, and GMAC. General Motors, committed to excellence. Live from Lincoln Center is also made possible by a grant from the Robert Wood Johnson Jr. Charitable Trust and with public funds from the National Endowment for the Arts.
We'll return to Lincoln Center in a moment. I'm Paul Winfield for Showcase Week, and I'm here helping public television blow its own horn about programs like tonight's concert. Now, you fans of great music know you couldn't see this anywhere else on television. And just think about some of the other musical firsts you've seen here over the years. The first performance of Wagner's Ring Cycle on consecutive nights. In honor of the opening of the Berlin Wall, a concert with Leonard Bernstein. And the first televised stage production of Showboat. It's simple. The reason you and I so often turn to public television is the sheer number of interesting programs we find here. And that's because of the simple notion that there's too much to see and do in this world to waste time on television that doesn't set out to be as intelligent, informative, and entertaining as possible. And now, back to Lincoln Center.
And back once again, backstage, to Hugh Downs and Zubin Mehta.
We're back now. And, you know, Daniel Barenboim is such a powerhouse talent that I wonder sometimes when other musicians have contact with him, whether he's an inspiration and a despair. I mean, they might be either thrilled or depressed on meeting him.
I don't think it's ever despair.
Really?
Because Daniel is a collaborator. He is an extremely serious rehearser. At the rehearsal, it's a pleasure to sort of work things out with Daniel. I'm sure the orchestra feels the same way too. He's never callous in his demands. He always reasons. Every time he wants something or he wants to change something, he always has a substantial reason for it. But Daniel mentioned about being sentimental. Of course, we have known each other for so many years, but I'm sentimental for another reason tonight. It's because I've played this type of a program not only with him now quite often, but before him, his mentor, which was Rubinstein. And one likes to always put labels on people, etc. But if there's one thing one could really call Daniel is a true successor of Rubinstein in every sense, except Rubinstein didn't conduct. He once attempted it. It was quite a disaster.
Oh, is that right? You know that, yeah.
At the rehearsal in Israel, he tried to conduct. That was not his thing. But in every way, repertoire-wise, of course, Daniel's repertoire now far exceeds anything that Rubinstein played. Like playing the Goldberg variations or all the 32 sonatas of Beethoven, and Daniel now plays a lot of contemporary music on the piano. A lot of modern composers have written for him, like Berio, and this collaboration really goes back so many years. But it was with the old man that we both started, and now it sort of continues. And it's
on this program, I'm wondering, ordinary people plan ahead and they figure out what they're going to do next week. But as performing artists, you go literally years ahead, booking, knowing where you're going to be and what concerts are. How long ago did you start planning this particular concert tonight?
Probably 2 years ago.
About 2 years ago?
Yeah. That's sometimes the only reason to meet. The only way we meet is at festivals or when we crisscross or go on stage together.
Yeah.
It's a pity.
In deciding what you were going to play, did you just sit around and kick it around, or was there a reason for putting this together?
No. Daniel has not played the Tchaikovsky concerto in America. This would be the first time he's played it here. And we played it a couple of years ago in Israel when we celebrated, again, Rubinstein's 100th anniversary. There was an incredible festival with the finest pianists in the world. And he finished the festival with the Beethoven Fifth and Emperor that time. Beethoven Fifth and Tchaikovsky on the same program. And
now, you go back, you've known each other since, what, 1956?
56.
Yeah.
We were in school in Siena.
Right.
Together in summer school, and he was 13, I was 20.
That's right. Now, on the music, I just want to talk to you about both pieces of music. What does it mean that Beethoven, by the time he started writing the third piano concerto, had really moved away?
That he wrote the third piano concerto first, then he wrote the second, and somehow sort of put the second in the drawer. And it's a question of publication, which he sent to the publisher first.
So he might have worked more on the second?
No, the second now, of course, because we know it as a second, seems chronologically correct.
Yeah.
But this concerto was written before that.
But in any case, his first, as his first symphony, even the influence of Mozart and Haydn was pretty strong there. But at what point did he start writing like Beethoven?
With the Eroica.
The Eroica Symphony, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
From the Eroica, it was another spirit almost. But what he learned from Mozart and Haydn particularly, he cannot ever forget or be, more grateful for, because these were his two predecessor mentors and had considerable influence in his life. If not for the Mozart piano concertos, I don't think these first three piano concertos would be as substantial. He had this incredible 27 concertos of Mozart to fall back on.
But of course, as symphonic literature became more complicated, people wrote fewer symphonies. Haydn with over 100, and
well, they got to be of a for larger orchestra, greater length. The composer spent more time writing them.
I marvel that Shostakovich wrote 15.
15, yes.
Well,
but then Shostakovich didn't travel as much. He was confined to the Soviet Union. Had he traveled, maybe it would have been different. Had he traveled conducting his works all over the world, maybe he would not have come to 15.
Now, on those two concertos tonight, there was about a 70-year span between the time they were written. Is it progress? You have the one, Tchaikovsky says, is so lush and romantic with the themes that they can make popular songs out of. Is that a line of progress, or is it just different?
No, Tchaikovsky was influenced by Germany to a certain extent. Tchaikovsky knew Wagner very well. I mean, not personally, but
He knew the music.
oh, he knew the music of Wagner. He knew Schumann. Occasionally, you hear little Schumann influences, but he was Russian through and through, and you feel the soul of Russia already in that little flute solo in the beginning of the second movement. That can only be written by a Russian.
That's it.
And the little scherzando, of course, in the second movement, is Parisian. You feel, you know, the bustling of the avenues, of the horse, the carriages, of people sitting in cafes, etc. It was very Parisian in that sense.
So it was just different and great, and not greater or lesser necessarily.
Well, what is greater in
how
art?
do you
We
measure
don't
it?
know that.
That is true.
We don't know.
I was asking Daniel Barenboim about the effect that maybe popularizing some of these things had on the reputation of the music. You know, when Freddie Martin in the 40s, I think, sometime, took that first theme of the Tchaikovsky First Piano Concerto and made a popular song called "Tonight We Love" out of it, and I think it's hard to get that out of your ears at the time that you hear this music, and maybe. And this is the point I want to ask you. How would you have us listen?
Thank God I don't know those songs.
Maybe it's just as well, I don't know. But in a way that acquainted some people with classical music, it might have led them to it, so that might be a plus. But in another way, it may have rubbed on the reputation the wrong way.
Well, you know, you had a whole musical on the themes of Borodin.
Yes, that's true.
You know,
That's right.
another music, the Song of Norway was all Grieg.
Sure.
The tunes were very popular.
Kismet was the musical
Kismet
based
was
on the
Borodin,
Borodin.
yes.
It made a great musical too,
Yeah.
because the music was wonderful. How would you have us listen to the Tchaikovsky First Piano Concerto in order to hear it? I'm harking back now to the time you explained something about the Mahler First that was immensely helpful to a lot of people as to how to hear that great work.
Oh, well, the piano concerto is different. This piano concerto does not have like the Beethoven. The Beethoven, we had an exposition of the orchestra alone in the beginning. In other words, the orchestra played both themes of the first movement as a symphonic exposition, and then the piano came in and then expounded, varied the same two themes.
Okay.
In the piano concerto of Tchaikovsky, the form is completely different. It's a much more disjointed form. You have the great theme, the great sweeping Russian theme in the beginning, then it develops slightly. After that, you have the second subject, the second theme, plaintively played on the clarinet, answered by the piano. Then it has enormous cadenzas for piano, which then Rachmaninoff took over. Rachmaninoff also used a lot of piano cadenzas in his piano concertos, just like Tchaikovsky did. There are two major cadenzas where the piano plays alone, where it is Tchaikovsky improvising technically on his own music. You know, the bravura that he wants the pianist to display. And of course, the repetition is quite similar. At the end of the cadenza, we have the repetition of the first movement in shorter form, and the second movement is just a beautiful song, which is taken from the flute, and the piano joins in, then excerpted in the bassoon, horn, and solo cello. Then we have this little Parisian scherzando coming back to Russia in the end. Very, very nostalgic in the end. Not sentimental, but you know, it almost breaks your heart when finally he comes back to his own little village theme. And the last moment is a real Russian dance.
Yeah.
You can see the Cossacks, you know, bending their knees and flinging them apart.
It's marvelous.
Yes, it is, and it ends in a victory, a great victory.
Very, very unlike his Sixth Symphony, for example, which really
Well,
ends
that
in
had a
tragedy.
different background,
Yeah, it sure has.
different motivation.
Well, we look forward to hearing this. I know you got to depart
Well,
and start with that. Nice talking with you
I
again.
look forward to it.
I really enjoyed talking with you again. And we'll hear the Tchaikovsky first presently. Thank you, Zubin.
And indeed, we shall hear the Tchaikovsky B-flat minor concerto presently. Tchaikovsky had some bad luck with this concerto and with the violin concerto, both of which were rejected by their dedicatees. The violin concerto, which Tchaikovsky wanted to dedicate to and hoped to hear Leopold Auer play, was rejected by Auer as unplayable. And much the same with the B-flat minor piano concerto, which Tchaikovsky played over before its first public performance, played it over for Nicholas Rubinstein, who was one of the reigning musical monarchs of the period. And Nicholas Rubinstein heaped vilification on the concerto, called it all sorts of unpleasant names. And Tchaikovsky, in despair, tore up the title page in which the dedication to Nicholas Rubinstein rested. And it was not a Russian pianist, but the German pianist-conductor Hans von Bülow who took up the cause of Tchaikovsky and, in fact, played the premiere of this B-flat minor piano concerto, not in Germany, not in London, not in Russia, but in, of all places, Boston, Massachusetts, in 1875. And, of course, since then, the violin concerto of Tchaikovsky and this B-flat minor piano concerto have become bedrock repertoire for their respective instruments. As a matter of fact, you can't walk the corridors of any music school or conservatory anywhere in the world without hearing 11-year-old violinists and pianists rehearsing either the violin concerto of Tchaikovsky or the piano concerto. It long ago ceased to hold any terrors for aspiring musicians, let alone professional musicians of the stature of Daniel Barenboim. And as Zubin Mehta said during the course of his conversation with Hugh Downs, not before this performance has Daniel Barenboim played the Tchaikovsky concerto in the United States, so that there is special interest attached to the performance that we're about to hear. Earlier I said the Tchaikovsky concerto, and for all practical purposes, that's it, although he did compose two other concertos for piano and orchestra. The second does occasionally receive performances, the third almost never. Here is Daniel Barenboim with Zubin Mehta and in collaboration with the New York Philharmonic. They will perform the Piano Concerto No. 1 in B-flat minor by Tchaikovsky. Live from Lincoln Center, this has been the Piano Concerto No. 1 in B-flat minor by Tchaikovsky, with Daniel Barenboim as soloist and Zubin Mehta conducting the New York Philharmonic. Here is Daniel Barenboim, the music director designate of the Chicago Symphony Orchestra. He will begin his tenure with the Chicago Symphony next season in the 1991-92 season as successor to Sir George Solti. Mr. Barenboim mentioned that he made his first appearance with members of the New York Philharmonic in the period when Dimitri Mitropoulos was the orchestra's music director. Mr. Barenboim made his first New York orchestral appearance under the direction of another conductor who served as an interim music advisor to the New York Philharmonic. I'm referring to Leopold Stokowski. And it was with Stokowski that Daniel Barenboim appeared with orchestra in New York for the first time, more than 30 years ago now. And an ovation wells up from the audience here at Avery Fisher Hall for this first performance by Daniel Barenboim in the United States of the Tchaikovsky B-flat minor piano concerto. And collaborating with his friend of more than 30 years, Zubin Mehta. The New York Philharmonic will be celebrating its 150th anniversary season 2 years hence. It is the oldest continuing symphony orchestra in the United States, having been founded in 1842, the same year as the Vienna Philharmonic. And in baseball, much has been made of the fact that there is a father and son combination now playing on the same team. Ken Griffey Sr. and Ken Griffey Jr. on the Seattle Mariners team. We have a father and son team here in the New York Philharmonic. During the course of the performance of the Oberon Overture, we had a close-up shot of the orchestra's principal double bass player, Eugene Levinson, and Mr. Levinson's son, Gary, is a member of the New York Philharmonic's violin section. There are also several husband and wife teams in the New York Philharmonic. Our next Live from Lincoln Center program will be Sunday afternoon, October 14, when we'll have Yo-Yo Ma in concert with the Orchestra of St. Luke's, conducted by David Zinman, and with cellist Carter Bray and pianist Jeffrey Kahane. This is Martin Bookspan. Good evening.
Live from Lincoln Center was underwritten by General Motors and its almost 800,000 employees in 38 countries. General Motors is committed to excellence in quality products and television programming. Live from Lincoln Center was also made possible by a grant from the Robert Wood Johnson Jr. Charitable Trust and with public funds from the National Endowment for the Arts.